Good evening, my friends. Thank you for joining us here at United Faith Christian Center for tonight's scroll. You know, on a daily basis, we interact with people. People we know, people we may not know, people we have a close relationship with, or just mere casual encounters. There are many times we question a person's actions. Yes, we do. All of us do. Whether we verbalize it to the individual or not, we rehearse things in our mind. Sometimes even forming our own opinion, thoughts, or judgment concerning them. And because we have formed our conclusion, which we have made, it may be correct or incorrect. But what we do is we respond according to what we believe. We can lose relationships this way. We can miscommunicate this way, misjudge this way, hurt someone, or close completely off because of our opinions. People leave churches this way. People bounce back and forth. People even get on social media and talk bad about one another. So let's look tonight at a familiar chapter in the book of Luke. I want to look at chapter 6 on this evening. In this particular chapter, you have the apostles are being chosen. You have blessings and woes that are being declared. You have mercy being exhorted. You have justice and sincerity is also being discussed. I want to start reading. I'm going to read chapter 6, verse 1. It reads this way. It says, and I'm reading from the New American Standard Bible. Now it happened that he, who is Christ, was passing through some grain fields on a Sabbath, and his disciples were picking the heads of grain, rubbing them in their hands and eating the grain. So another passage or translation talks about that it was corn, that his disciples were picking corn, rubbing it in their hands, and they began to eat it. Verse 2 says, but some of the Pharisees said, why do you do what is not lawful on the Sabbath? So they weren't supposed to be working, in other words. And so this is the question that the Pharisees asked when seeing them do this. Verse 3 says, and Jesus answering them said, have you not even read what David did when he was hungry? He and those who were with him, how he entered the house of God and took and ate the consecrated bread, which is not lawful for any to eat except the priest alone, and gave it to his companions. So David was hungry. David went in and ate the bread, the consecrated, the set apart bread that wasn't even for him, but was actually for the priest alone, and gave it to those who were again with him. Verse 5 says, and he was saying to them, the Son of Man is the Lord of the Sabbath. On another Sabbath, he entered the synagogue and was teaching, and there was a man there whose right hand was withered, talking about Jesus entering this synagogue. The scribes and the Pharisees were watching him, Jesus, closely to see if he healed on the Sabbath, so that they might find reason to accuse him, to judge him, in other words. But he knew what they were thinking, and he said to the man with the withered hand, get up and come forward. And he got up and came forward. And Jesus said to them, I ask you, is it lawful to do good or to do harm on the Sabbath, to save a life or to destroy it? So here you have this man with the withered hand. Well, let's continue reading first. Verse 10 says, after looking around at them all, he said to him, stretch out your hand. And he did so, and his hand was restored. But they themselves, they were filled with rage and discussed together what they might do to Jesus. So look at this. You have Jesus who comes across a man who has a withered hand, and it is the Sabbath. It is a day that is set aside to be holy. And Jesus, what he does is he heals this man's hand. His hand is actually restored. And so Jesus asked the question, is it lawful to do good or to do harm? So Jesus is actually, he's actually looking or taking the matter that is at hand. And when he does that, they become filled with rage, and they discuss how they actually are going to deal with Jesus. Listen, don't always make a final judgment on another individual and respond on it. Your actions may be incorrect because your thoughts and conclusion about the matter may not be right. People do things because they believe what they do is correct, sometimes without having all the pieces. The disciples were hungry. That's why they picked the corn. David entered the house of God and ate consecrated bread because he was hungry. Jesus healed the man with the withered hand on the Sabbath because it was right to do so. And they, the scribes and Pharisees, passed judgment on him. They were filled with rage and discussed how they were going to deal with Jesus. I want to look at verse 37 of this same chapter. It says, "Do not judge, and you will not be judged. And do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Pardon, and you will be pardoned. Give, and it will be given to you." We know the scripture goes on to say, "Pressed down, shaken together, running over. For by the standard of measure, it will be measured to you in return." And I know a lot of people always use that for offering wise and money. But look at this. It's saying what you dish out, how you respond to someone else, be careful, because the same response you give them, you may be measured by that same response. There will be situations where we will find ourselves in the position of the disciples or David eating. In other words, meeting a physical need with no other ill intention in mind. They were trying to satisfy their hunger. Or we can find ourselves in the position of Jesus, who was able to meet the need of the man with the withered hand in spite of tradition. Now notice, for those who are religious, I did not say that we were Jesus or you were Jesus. I said it may be a time when we are in the position as he was, able to meet or fulfill a particular need for another individual. And there will be those, like the scribes and Pharisees, who will question our reason, our timing, our method in which we choose to help someone else. Look at verse 45 of the same chapter 6. It says, "The good man out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth what is good, and the evil man out of the evil treasure brings forth what is evil. For his mouth speaks from that which fills his heart." Look at that. For the mouth speaks from that which fills a man's heart. Lord, tonight, help us to respond accordingly. Selah. Think on that. Until next time, may God bless you. May God keep you. May he meet you exactly where you are.